The air is crisp, the kind that carries the scent of freshly cut grass and morning dew. I sit on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the sun spill golden light over my quiet, picturesque neighborhood. Oakwood Estates, an exclusive, gated community where everything looks perfect on the surface. Perfectly manicured lawns. Perfectly uniform houses. Perfectly polite neighbors. But perfection is an illusion. I'm Judge Michael Carter, a federal judge, to be precise, and a black man in a neighborhood that wasn't designed with me in mind. Not explicitly, of course. No one says it out loud. But I see it in the way people hesitate before waving back. In the hushed conversations that die when I roll past in my wheelchair. I don't mind. Not until they make it my problem. The hum of an approaching vehicle disrupts the peace. A sleek white SUV rolls to a stop in front of my driveway. The Oakwood Homeowners Association seal gleams on the driver's door. My fingers tighten around my coffee mug. Not again. The door swings open, and out steps Barbara Whitmore, HOA president, self-appointed neighborhood watchdog, and a woman who has never quite managed to hide her disdain for me. Her crisp blazer is buttoned too tightly, and her blonde bob doesn't move an inch in the breeze. Everything about her is controlled, except her smile. "Judge Carter," she says, her voice all saccharine and steel. "Hope I'm not disturbing your morning." I sip my coffee and set the mug down. "Something tells me you wouldn't care if you were." She laughs, but her eyes are sharp. Predatory. "We need to talk about your front lawn." I glance at the grass. It's trimmed neat. Perfect. Just like everyone else's. "What about it?" She pulls a folder from her bag and flips it open, revealing a printed photo. It's a shot of my porch, specifically of the ramp leading up to my front door. "You're in violation of HOA aesthetic guidelines," she says smoothly. "The ramp is an unauthorized modification." My jaw tightens. I had permits. Legal ones. ADA compliance laws. Everything checked out. They knew that. "Barbara," I say evenly, "we've had this conversation before." She tilts her head, feigning concern. "We're just trying to maintain property values, Judge Carter. If we start allowing exceptions, well, things might get out of hand." She says it like my wheelchair is contagious. I inhale deeply, steadying myself. I know what this is. A test. A warning. She tucks the folder back into her bag and smiles. "We'll be sending a formal notice. You'll have 30 days to remove the structure, or we'll handle it for you." She's already turning to leave when I say, "Try it, and I'll see you in court." She pauses. For the briefest second, something flickers in her expression. Uncertainty. Fear. But then she recovers, smoothing her blazer. "Oh, Judge Carter," she purrs. "We'll see about that." She climbs back into the SUV and drives away. I watch her disappear down the street, my heart hammering. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 2 weeks pass. The notice arrives, just as Barbara promised. A crisp white envelope, HZ letterhead stamped at the top, slipped neatly into my mailbox. 30 days to remove the ramp. I don't panic. I have legal standing. Federal law trumps HOA policies. I draft a formal response, citing the Americans with Disabilities Act, attach copies of my permits, and send it certified mail. Case closed. At least, that's what I think. Until the strange occurrences begin. It starts with the scratches on my van. Long, jagged marks across the side panel. Vandalism, but subtle enough that I can't prove intent. Could have been a stray branch. A careless driver. Then my trash bins go missing. 2 weeks in a row. The HOA issues a violation notice for improper waste disposal. When I call to dispute it, their secretary, a chipper young woman named Lisa, tells me, "Oh, that's unfortunate, Judge Carter. Maybe check with your neighbors?" I do. No one's lost their bins. Coincidence? Maybe. But then, one morning, I wake to find a note taped to my front door. No signature. Just 3 words, typed in bold letters. "You don't belong." A chill runs down my spine. I take a deep breath, reminding myself I've dealt with worse. As a judge, I've ruled on cases that have made me enemies. Anonymous threats aren't new to me. But this is personal. That evening, I install security cameras. 3 covering the front yard, driveway, and porch. If someone tries something again, I'll have proof. Days pass. The air in the neighborhood feels different. Colder. Watchful. The polite nods from my neighbors feel forced. Some avoid eye contact altogether. Then late one night, I hear it. A metallic crunch. I roll to my front window just in time to see figures moving near my van. Hooded.
Quick.
A crowbar raised, slamming into something. My wheelchair lift. They're destroying it. Adrenaline surges through me as I grab my phone and pull up the security feed. The footage is crystal clear. 2 figures. One taller, moving with practiced ease. The other, stockier, hesitant. And then, as they turn, the porch light catches one of their faces. It's Robert Whitmore, Barbara's husband. My stomach tightens. They retreat into the night, but I don't move. I just sit there, gripping the wheels of my chair, my heart pounding. This wasn't just a warning anymore. This was war. Morning comes, but I don't sleep. I spend hours reviewing the security footage, replaying the moment Robert Whitmore's face emerges from the shadows. His smugness.
His certainty.
Like he truly believed he could destroy my property without consequences. Not today. I forward the footage to the local police department and file a formal complaint. Within an hour, I get a call from Detective Harris. Judge Carter, he greets me, voice tight. We reviewed the footage. No doubt it's Robert Whitmore. But I'll be honest with you, this is tricky. I lean forward. What's tricky about felony vandalism? Harris sighs. Look, I'm not saying it's right, but Whitmore's connected. His brother's the police commissioner. His family's been part of this community for decades. The DA might not push this as hard as we'd like. I exhale slowly, rage simmering beneath my skin. Privilege. Protection. The same old playbook. Detective, I say, my voice steady. I hope you're not telling me the law doesn't apply to certain people in Oakwood Estates.
A pause.
Then, we'll look into it. I don't believe him. That afternoon, I roll into the HOA office, security footage queued up on my phone. The receptionist barely meets my eyes before stammering. Mrs. Whitmore is in a meeting. She'll see me, I say, pushing past her. Barbara sits behind a mahogany desk, perfectly composed, perfectly unbothered. She barely glances up. Judge Carter, she says smoothly. To what do I owe the pleasure? I press play. Robert's face fills the screen. The sound of metal crunching. The unmistakable proof of his crime. Her expression never changes. That's quite an accusation, she says, clasping her hands together. But security footage can be unreliable. I stare at her. Unreliable. She leans forward, voice syrupy sweet. You should consider your place here, Judge Carter. Oakwood Estates thrives on harmony, on understanding. Perhaps you should let this go for the good of the community. Understanding? She means submission. Compliance. A quiet exit. I grit my teeth. Not happening. You have 24 hours, I say coldly. Either Robert turns himself in, or I take this higher. And trust me, Barbara, I have higher places to go. A flicker of something, uncertainty, crosses her face. But then she smiles, leaning back in her chair. We'll see, she murmurs. The pushback. That night, I get another letter. A final warning from the HOA. Due to repeated violations and failure to comply with neighborhood standards, your property is now subject to enforcement action. And at the bottom, in neat, elegant print, your wheelchair ramp and modifications will be removed immediately. My breath stills. Barbara isn't backing down. She's escalating. She's coming for me. I grab my phone and make another call, this time to my clerk at the courthouse. Lisa, I say, my voice firm, draft me a federal injunction, effective immediately. If the HOA wants a fight, I'll bring them a war. Morning arrives with a cruel kind of stillness, the kind that signals a storm before it breaks. At exactly 9 a.m., a team of HOA contractors pull up in a black work truck. No warning, no courtesy. Just power tools, smug grins, and a single sheet of paper. Barbara Whitmore's official order to tear down my wheelchair ramp. I watch from my porch, arms folded, heart steady. They think I'm powerless. Barbara steps out of her SUV, wearing a navy blue pantsuit and the expression of a woman who has already declared victory. She wants me to beg. She strides up my driveway, hands clasped like she's delivering a sermon. "Judge Carter," she says, voice dripping with faux sympathy, "I truly hate that it's come to this. But you left us no choice." I glance at the work crew as they unload. "You called in contractors to destroy an ADA-compliant structure. You realize that's illegal?" She laughs softly. "No, Judge Carter. What's illegal is you defying HOA regulations. Your ramp is an eyesore. A violation. The board has ruled, and we're merely enforcing the decision." I let the silence stretch, let her bask in her own arrogance. She tilts her head. "Of course, if you reconsider your position, if you apologize for the accusations you made against my husband, I'm sure we can find a more diplomatic solution." I exhale slowly, shaking my head. She still doesn't get it. "Barbara," I say, my voice even, "do you know what happens when someone willfully violates the Americans with Disabilities Act?" Her smile falters just slightly. "Excuse me?" "They get sued." I reach into my pocket and pull out a legal document stamped with a federal seal. "This is an official injunction, barring you and this entire HOA from making any modifications to my property." Barbara's eyes dart to the paper. Her breath catches. "This is ridiculous," she snaps. "You think some legal stunt will stop us?" I arch an eyebrow. "Oh, this is no stunt." I nod toward the street. Barbara turns just as 3 police cruisers pull up. Detective Harris steps out, flanked by 2 officers. His expression is unreadable, but when his gaze meets mine, I know. He got my message loud and clear. "Mrs. Whitmore," he says, strolling up the driveway, "we need to have a word." Barbara's confidence wavers, but she recovers fast. "Detective, this is a private matter. We're simply enforcing HOA policies." "That's funny," Harris cuts in, "because we have a different perspective. See, Judge Carter provided us with security footage of your husband committing felony vandalism." Barbara stiffens. That's absurd." And, Harris continues, pulling out his own folder, "we also have evidence of HOA intimidation, selective enforcement, and federal ADA violations." He lets that last one linger. Barbara's face loses all color. The contractors hesitate, unsure whether to start tearing down the ramp or run. I lean back in my chair, watching her entire kingdom start to crumble. She opens her mouth, scrambling for control. "This is a mistake. You can't." "Actually," Harris interrupts, gesturing to the officers, "we can." The officers step forward, and for the first time, fear flickers in Barbara's eyes. She's not untouchable anymore. And she knows it. Barbara isn't used to losing. She stands there, stiff and pale, her perfect world unraveling right in front of her. And she can't stop it. The officers step closer, and she instinctively retreats. "You can't do this," she hisses, her voice wobbling. "You have no real evidence. This is harassment." Harris smirks.
Funny.
"That's exactly what we have you on." Barbara turns to the work crew, desperate. "Start the demolition." That's an order. The foreman shifts uncomfortably, glancing between her and the cops. No one moves, because no one wants to go down with her. She wheels back toward me, her expression twisting into something ugly. Raw, desperate entitlement. "You think you've won?" she spits. "You don't belong here. You never did. You come in with your lawsuits and threats, thinking you can just force your way in."
She stops.
But it's too late. The neighbors have started gathering. They line the sidewalks, some clutching their phones, others whispering in hushed tones. She just exposed herself. I stay quiet, letting her dig her own grave. A murmur spreads through the crowd. Then, from the back, a voice speaks up. "Actually, Barbara, we need to talk." She turns sharply, just as David Langston steps forward. The HOA treasurer. One of her own board members. "David," she says, bewildered. He holds up his phone. A second video plays. It's a recording from last week's HOA meeting. Barbara's voice, clear as day. I don't care about his legal rights. That ramp is a stain on this neighborhood. If he wants special treatment, he can go live somewhere else. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. Barbara's mask finally cracks. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. That's out of context, she stammers. I meant that we have standards. No, Barbara. David cuts her off. We're done covering for you. She whirls on him. You're siding with him? With them? David flinches. More murmurs. More realization. And then, a new voice joins in. Barbara, I think it's best if you step down. The crowd parts. The HOA vice president, Ellen Green, steps forward. Older, respected, a woman who actually has integrity. Barbara recoils like she's been slapped. You can't be serious. Ellen exhales. The board is meeting tonight. We're voting on your removal. Barbara completely unravels. You're all turning on me, she screeches. I built this community. I made this place what it is. And you'd throw me under the bus for him? Her voice breaks on the last word, dripping with venom. I just watch.
Calm. Steady.
Because I never had to destroy Barbara Whitmore. She did that all on her own. She whips back to Harris, grasping for control. My husband is friends with a commissioner. He'll make this go away. Harris just smirks. Oh, about that, he holds up a second document. Your husband was arrested this morning. Barbara staggers back like she's been punched. What? She breathes. Harris shrugs. Turns out, multiple vandalism charges don't sit well with the city. Especially when the DA sees a clear-cut case of targeted harassment.
He winks.
Hope Robert likes county jail. Barbara sways. Her entire world is crumbling. And I just sip my coffee. Because justice always catches up. Barbara Whitmore is finished. By nightfall, the HOA board holds an emergency meeting. Unanimous decision. Barbara is removed as president. The next morning, news vans line the streets. Reporters hungry for a scandal swarm Oakwood Estates, cameras rolling as Barbara, red-faced, wild-eyed, screams at them to leave. But there's no escaping it. By noon, footage of her racist rant circulates online. It spreads like wildfire. Social media tears her apart. Her real estate firm drops her. Local businesses cut ties. Even the country club, the one she so proudly boasted about, revokes her membership. By the end of the week, a for sale sign appears on her front lawn. Barbara is leaving. For good. The community awakens. The neighbors who once averted their eyes start talking. Some approach me cautiously, shame in their voices. I'm sorry, Ellen Green says, standing on my porch. I should have spoken up sooner. I study her, searching for sincerity. I find it. It's never too late to do the right thing. I say simply. And then the unexpected happens. Over the next few days, things start changing. The HOA holds a town hall meeting. For the first time, real conversations happen. People admit they looked the other way too long. And then a vote. New policies. Fair ones. Ones that prevent selective enforcement. Ones that ensure accessibility. Ones that acknowledge what happened here. Oakwood Estates is finally waking up.
Peace restored.
1 week later, I sit on my porch, watching as new contractors arrive. But this time, they're not here to destroy. They're here to fix my wheelchair lift. Ellen stops by, handing me a folder. The HOA will cover the full repair costs, she says. And we're officially adding protections for disabled residents in our bylaws. I nod, flipping through the paperwork. A real, tangible victory. She hesitates. You're not leaving, are you? I look out at my home. My space. My hard-won peace. No, I say. I fought for this place. I'm staying. A breeze rolls in, warm and steady. And for the first time in a long time, I truly feel at home.